You stopped caring. The people who once drained you emotionally now get nothing from you. You have become cold, distant, unreachable. And the strangest part, you feel no guilt about it. But this is not avoidant attachment in the way modern psychology defines it. Jung called this something far more dangerous. A necessary withdrawal into the self that marks the beginning of a complete psychological transformation. What happens when the empath finally stops absorbing everyone else's pain and starts protecting their own consciousness? Today, we explore Jung's most controversial insight about empaths who shut the door and never looked back. The case that changed everything began in Jung's Zurich clinic in 1917. A patient arrived, presenting what appeared to be classic withdrawal symptoms. She refused to engage with her family, avoided social gatherings, and had systematically cut contact with nearly everyone from her past life. Other therapists had diagnosed her with depression, social anxiety, even schizoid personality disorder. But Jung saw something completely different. He was looking at an empath who had finally learned to conserve her psychic energy. This patient had spent 32 years being what Jung called an emotional shock absorber for everyone around her. Alcoholic father, narcissistic mother, abusive relationships, toxic friendships. She had absorbed it all, explained it all away, forgiven it all repeatedly. Then something shifted. Jung documented it in his private notes as the clarity event. The moment when accumulated betrayal finally overwhelmed the empath's need to believe the best in people. What happened next terrified everyone who knew her. The patient did not break down. She did not cry or scream or beg for explanations. Instead, she became unnaturally calm. Jung described it as watching someone finally remove a mask they had worn for 3 decades. The performance of caring was over. She stopped explaining herself, stopped defending her perceptions, stopped trying to make unconscious people understand conscious observations. Her family called it cruel. Jung called it boundary enforcement. What made this case so remarkable was the precision of her transformation. Jung documented that she did not become randomly cold to everyone. She became strategically unavailable to people who had proven they would exploit her availability. Her husband, who had cheated while she forgave and absorbed his shame. Her mother, who had dumped unprocessed rage onto her daughter for 30 years. Her siblings, who called only when they needed emotional labor. The patient cut them all off within 2 weeks. No dramatic confrontations, no lengthy explanations. When they accused her of being heartless, she did not defend herself. Here is what Jung discovered about empaths that modern psychology still struggles to accept. Empaths do not feel more than other people. They perceive more. Their brains process emotional information at a level that most humans never access. They see the lies beneath polite conversations, the desperation behind confident presentations, the manipulation disguised as concern. Jung wrote in his Red Book period notes that there are those among us whose psychic apparatus is so finely tuned that they absorb not merely conscious communications, but the entire unconscious atmosphere of their environment. This is not a gift. It is a burden that destroys most people who carry it. The empath sees everything, and seeing everything means carrying everyone else's rejected shadow material. The anger your mother will not acknowledge. The insecurity your partner hides behind arrogance. The cruelty your friend disguises as honesty. Empaths become repositories for all the darkness that others refuse to integrate. This creates what Jung called participation mystique, a state where the empath's psychological boundaries dissolve completely. They can no longer distinguish between their own emotions and the unconscious contents they are absorbing from everyone around them. They feel depressed, but the depression belongs to their spouse. They feel anxious, but the anxiety is their parents' unprocessed trauma. They feel worthless, but the shame is actually being projected onto them by people who cannot face their own inadequacy. Most empaths spend decades trapped in this state, absorbing, processing, healing everyone except themselves. Jung identified what finally breaks this pattern. It is not one massive betrayal. It is accumulation. Micro-betrayal after micro-betrayal, all dismissed by the empath, who keeps believing people will eventually recognize their sacrifice and reciprocate their care. The empath remembers everything. Every time they were called too sensitive when they named the truth. Every instance their boundaries were violated. Every moment they predicted exactly what would happen and were told they were being negative. Jung called this the emotional ledger. Empaths keep perfect records in their unconscious mind. This ledger accumulates silently for years, sometimes decades. Then comes the final entry, the betrayal that tips the scale. It is often not the worst thing that has happened to them. It is simply the thing that makes the pattern undeniable. The clarity event happens when the empath's pattern recognition finally overwhelms their hope. They see with absolute certainty that the person they have been protecting will never change, that the family system they have been stabilizing